go before we move on to Legacy, but I think it's going to be quite a doozy, and we'll see who's going to win between Adam Johnson and John Wallace.
John Wallace here, the number 5 seed, playing against Adam Johnson, the number 6 seed. Wallace is going to be on the play. That's another advantage in John Wallace's favor, even though Adam Johnson has dispatched both of his previous opponents in the top 8 as the lower seed. At some point, things have to catch up to you.
So Wallace is just going to start with the Blood Crypt. Johnson's going to start off with a Rakdos Cackler Unleashed. So he does have a 1-drop, something that we've seen a lot from Johnson here over the course of the weekend. Is even though he's been on the draw, he always does have the 1-drop at the ready, which is super important for the red deck.
Yeah, so he did most likely keep a very good hand for this matchup. 1-drops, only 8 total cards in his deck, but he's got one again on time.
So Wallace is going to cast a Farseek. You see his hand right now. He has a couple of lands, he has a Huntmaster of the Fells, and what looks to be either a Bonfire of the Damned or a Mizzium Mortars, but it is a red removal spell. So we're likely going to be seeing a Huntmaster of the Fells come to the party here on turn number 3, and we'll see if Johnson is going to have an answer for the Wolf token, the Huntmaster itself, or potentially both.
So John Wallace on the play, Farseek on turn 2. That's basically taking 2 steps ahead here of Adam Johnson, who did start off with a Rakdos Cackler. So Adam Johnson keeping the 1-drop hand, very important. We'll see what he goes with here. Does he have the skills this time? No Madcap skills. He attacks for 2 with the Cackler. And then his follow-up play.
I'm sure to see if maybe he has a Burning Tree Emissary draw or anything like that. All right.
2 more Cacklers. So that is a lot of cackling. And John Wallace enthusiastically picks up his card, hoping for a Bonfire for 2 right there. Didn't have it. But he has a Huntmaster of the Fells instead. Gonna gain him 2 life, go back up to 20. He's gonna get a 2/2 Wolf token, so for 1 card he could potentially trade with 2 Cacklers here.
So Johnson is going to need, a Madcap skills type card. Maybe he has Pillar of Flame and Searing Spear, something to be able to push through here, because he wants to at least get rid of that Huntmaster of the Fells for the turn.
Oh, plays the Stomping Ground.
Yeah.
Untapped. Signaling something big on turn 3.
This feels like a Gorkline Rampager to me.
John Wallace, yeah. Adam Johnson telegraphing that Gorkline Rampager by playing the Stomping Ground untapped.
But remember, that's not a spell. So.
Oh, very key. Gorkline Rampager, that is an activated ability. So Huntmaster flips into Ravager of the Fells, dealing 2 damage to a Cackler, 2 damage to Adam Johnson, and becoming a 4/4.
Not Bonfire of the Damned again.
Very, very important there.
Yeah.
You caught it. John Wallace caught it. That could have easily been a trigger that was missed, because the Gorkline Rampager Blood Rush feels like a spell.
Yeah. So that is absolutely huge there. And now a card that I didn't really think is going to be great in this matchup, Garruk Primal Hunter, actually looks quite good here, just putting out a 3/3 for 5 mana. Doing its best Sea-Snid impersonation. But a 3/3 in this board of 2/2s from Adam Johnson is actually really, really good.
And that's what he's goes.
Okay.
Going for the Bonfire for 2, playing it safe. Now, do you attack with the Ravager of the Fells here, knowing that there are some hasty creatures in Adam Johnson's deck?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, right? Where you can play more aggressive, put Johnson down to 10 and really start to get after his life total, or you can play more defensive because you don't want to get hit by a Hellrider and push down to 8 and then put yourself into Burn Rage. He can just play this game very defensively. He has a Garruk Primal
says
Hunter.
Go right there.
Yeah.
His hand is not really set up to race at any point if Adam Johnson comes out with haste creatures. So he keeps his Ravager of the Fells back on blocking duty very wisely.
And it looks like Johnson drew a Hellrider for the turn too. So I actually kind of like this play by Wallace of just sitting back and playing defense, because there's no real reason to try to race where you have such good cards in your hand.
Yeah, he's got 2 Planeswalkers in his hands. Those can't close out the game quickly, so he's going to go for a little bit of a slower attrition war with those Planeswalkers. Keep the Ravager on defense.
Wallace shows Johnson
Oh,
that he
wow.
drew a Thragtusk and is more than happy to attack with Ravager of the Fells now.
Gets in for 4, takes Johnson to 10. Thragtusk, John Wallace is going to go back up to 17 life. That is too much life right here for Adam Johnson.
And that is, oh my goodness.
Is
That
that,
is a-
4
That is a hand
Hellriders?
of 4 Hell Riders that Johnson had in his hand. Actual 4, and not a 4th land, so he's going to concede the game. I've seen a lot of things here in the booth. I've never seen that before.
4 Hellriders.
4 Hell Riders
with
in
3
hand.
lands on board.
Yes, no 4th land, and Adam Johnson is going to concede the game, so John Wallace does win game number 1, finger wags and all, as we're going to cut back to the booth here because it is time to give away the full 12 months of premium. Trivia
1
time?
year.
Pretty
12
easy.
months of StarCityGames.com premium.
This time.
I've got a trivia question,
You've got the
for
question.
for you and for the viewers at home.
All
If
right.
you know the answer, hashtag SCG Premium.
Yep.
What I want to know is, at GP Miami,
Okay.
there are going to be 3 artists in attendance. 3 Magic the Gathering card artists. I
Okay.
love art.
Okay.
One of these artists is from the United Kingdom.
Okay.
We're bringing him in from the UK. This is going to be his first appearance ever
Okay.
in the United States. He's well known for painting beautiful angels. I
True.
believe Baneslayer Angel.
Yes.
I think Angel of
Jubilation?
Jubilation.
Maybe?
No, that's Therese Nielsen.
No, my bad. My bad.
Anyway, we have 4 angel lithographs
Okay.
available from him.
Yes.
Who is the artist from the United Kingdom making his first U.S. appearance at Grand Prix Miami in 2 weeks? If you know the answer to that, hashtag SCG Premium. Again, we will choose randomly from all of the correct answers, so no hurry. You want to make sure you get this right.
Yep.
Do your research on artists, and we will randomly choose a winner to win 12 months of premium.
Yes, a tough one. But you got to make him earn the full year, so I'm good with it.
Okay.
A little bit more difficult question, but again, you're getting a full year of premium for getting this artist right. So,
And I want you guys to know a little bit more about artists. So
Yeah.
that's what we're doing here.
I can dig it. I can dig
And
it.
now, what are Adam Johnson and John Wallace going to be doing in games 2 and 3?
Well,
Or games 2 to start?
yeah, Adam Johnson, you see both players looking at the deck list there on the table. We'll be looking at them in front of us here. 2 Gruul War Chant, 3 Volcanic Strength, 2 Electrickery, 4 Skullcrack, 3 Mizium Orders, and a Forest there for Johnson. Again, I do kind of like Gruul War Chant, especially when he's on the play. I don't like it very much if he were to be on the draw, but as he is down a game, going to be on the play this game, I actually kind of like it. Volcanic Strength is okay, but it does open yourself at getting 2 for 1. So that's a little bit scary. And then Skullcrack is this nice counter spell, if you will, to Thragtusk and Huntmaster of the Fells. But again, it's this thing where you need to have Skullcrack at the right time, have the necessary mana open to really have it be a blowout. So I don't know if you're going to want to board maybe 2, maybe all 4 if you're Johnson, but it's a difficult card to want to be able to bring in because it does have a good effect, but if you draw it at the wrong time, it is pretty bad. So I think those are his options right now.
I'm very curious about the volcanic strengths. We see this in the red deck sideboards, but it's more for the mirror matches, right? You want to put this on one of your creatures. The Mountain Walk is good, but the +2/+2, getting a creature out of burn range is even more important. John Wallace does have a little bit of burn, but he also has targeted spot removal like Putrefy and Dreadbore. So Volcanic Strength, you said, could get 2 for 1. So maybe not the right choice in this matchup, even though John has mountains in his deck.
Yep. You take a look at Wallace's side now, you see some cards that he's not really going to be interested in using, like a Slaughter Games, like a Siren's Handy, like a Dead Bridge Chant. Those cards are going to stay on the board. But the rest of these cards are actually quite interesting. You see 2 Abrupt Decay, 2 Devour Flesh, a Liliana the Veil, a Dreadbore, a Gaze of Granite, 2 Pillar of Flames, and the rest is to a lesser extent. He's got a lot of removal. He can board in his cards that are pretty poor in this matchup that he doesn't really care about, and just board into this very removal-heavy deck against a red deck, which this particular red deck does not have that much haste. It does have Hellrider, but outside of that, and Flint of course, excuse me, but outside of that, it does not have a ton of haste like some other versions do.
Doesn't have the Thunder Maw Hellkite,
Yep.
which is the real big finisher out of these red decks that can put the pedal to the metal. So John Wallace is going to board into a very removal-heavy deck and try to hold off the assault from Adam Johnson, red-green aggro deck. He lost game 1, so he's going to be on the play. Will he bring in those Gruul War Chants? Will he bring in the Volcanic Strings?
See, I really think it's just, if you're John Wallace, it's just 1-for-1 city. You just want to trade your cards for Johnson's card 1-for-1 as much as you can. And, you know, the cards that you're going to want to board out here, again, if you're John Wallace, Sire of Insanity, Bonfire of the Damned, potentially. Ground Seal, certainly gone. Garruk Primal Hunter, certainly gone. Rakdos' Return, certainly gone, unless you board all of that removal. And just trade your resources 1-for-1 as often as you can. Then you land a Thragtusk, which is basically generating 2-card tree. You're getting 5 life and a 5-free body. Same thing can be said for Huntmaster of the Fells. You're getting 2 life and 2 2/2s, and you're also making Adam Johnson change the way he has to play the game. So, you know, that is his goal. Adam Johnson's goal is to make it so that Wallace is never able to do that, but when he has so much removal, all he has to do is point and click at the creatures that Johnson's playing and make sure that his life total just stays high. That's all he needs to do. If he can accomplish that, is another story altogether.
Point and click. So here we go. These players are shuffling up. Ruben Bressler, a little small talk with John Wallace there. And this guy, like I said, he has been a real showman.
Indeed.
I enjoy watching this guy on camera. It would almost be interesting to have these players mic'd up and see what he's saying. If it's, you know, PG.
Yes, if it is PG.
But everyone having a good time. It's a tense thing to be in the finals of a StarCityGames.com Open. But these players look relaxed. I think they know that Magic is a game. It's a fun game. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a trophy on the line. Other things, but it's still a game at heart.
Yeah.
And it's good to have fun. 7 cards.
3. Again, Johnson on your left, he's going to be on the play here. Get you 1 more card. Does not look particularly pleased with that opener. You saw his shoulders kind of slump. He does not want to
Yeah,
mulligan.
look at that. Look at that body language. Is that a reluctant keep?
I think that feels like a reluctant keep to me. Take a look
Is
at
he
John.
playing it up perhaps? Does he have a hyper-aggressive start and he's just trying to get John Wallace to keep a sketchier hand by pretending that his hand is not very good? Do you go in for that kind of gamesmanship when you play?
Not often, no.
Just play it straight up, let the cards play out.
It feels like both players have kept hands that they're not incredibly thrilled about.
Yeah, John Wallace certainly wears his emotions on his sleeve, even though he has no sleeves.
And Adam Johnson's actually still deciding if he wants to keep his hand, knowing that so much is on the line right now.
Ruben Bressler takes a peek, so maybe we will see in the text coverage.
Yep.
He'll tell us what this hand was and why Adam had to think about it so much.
See, in situations like this, where I'm thinking so long about keeping or mulliganing my hand, my thought process here is that I'm thinking this long about keeping a hand. I'm trying to convince myself to keep a poor hand.
Yeah, there he goes. So we think wisely mulliganing young Adam Johnson. But another factor is he could, if it's say a land light hand with lots of 2-drops maybe, he's thinking, he's calculating his odds, how many lands do I have in his deck?
And Johnson said he had lands and spells that didn't do anything. That was the problem. And
what does that mean at this point?
He probably has like a removal heavy hand that involves like Searing Spears, maybe Madcap Skills and stuff like that. And looking to draw a creature, maybe, or had like a Gruul War Chant. He did have lands and did have spells, but they didn't actually matter. And if that was the case, I actually like a mulligan like that, where you actually need a hand that does do something.
This deck is all action, right? If your spells don't do anything, maybe you accidentally picked up someone else's deck.
Well, he's happy with his 6 cards, as well as slowly draws his card.
Okay, so good mulligan for Adam Johnson, it seems, with the turn 1 Rakdos Cackler again. I think every game we've had him on camera, he's had a 1-drop.
Pillar of
John
Flame's going
Wallace.
to take care of it.
Now he loses 2 life from the Blood Crypt to take care of that Cackler. So it was kind of even at that point.
And so what this looks like to me is this looks like a spell-heavy hand that does involve, you see Mythium Mortars in Johnson's hand, some other things. It looks like it's a lot of spells, and now we got a Farseek here from Wallace, so now he's accelerating and has dealt with the early threat. So he is off to a very, very nice start.
Yeah, look at this. I have never wanted to see someone mic'd up more in my life. John Wallace is saying something. He's hamming it up for the crowd. I wish we knew what it was. This guy, I can't wait to see if he does win and he's up 1-0. If he wins, this is going to be a very interesting interview with Ruben Wrestler.
I agree. Ruben's going to have to try to keep him in control.
So he does Farseek, gets a stomping ground. So now he has all sorts of colors available to him. He's accelerated. Possibly set up to play another Hunt Master of the Fells on turn 3.
Mm-hmm. It looks like he has Olivia Voldaren in his hand as well, does Wallace. So he's doing quite well for himself in what, again, I felt was a pretty favorable matchup. But, you know, again, Johnson has won 2 unfavorable matchups already. He just has land and has to pass the turn back. So
that Mythium Mortars we see in Adam's hand, that's from his sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
Why did he bring those in?
So the thought process behind that is that you want to be able to control cards like Vampire Nighthawk, be able to control Olivia Voldaren, be able to control Hunt Master of the Fells. But again, the thing about that is I don't really think that's going to lead to a win, controlling those cards. That's the reason I'm not particularly fond of boarding a card in like Mythium Mortars. I think it's great at, you know, when you're playing against a deck that's green and white and has like locks it on Smiter and stuff like that, because you have to clear that out of the way. But I don't like it against a deck like this one where you need to get off to a fast start and you just want to burn your opponent out, because Mythium Mortar is obviously quite poor against the old Thragtusk here.
Yeah, so John Wallace played an Olivia Voldaren. Adam Johnson answered back with a Burning Tree Emissary into the Mythium Mortars to remove the legendary vampire. But now Wallace has a Thragtusk. He's gained his 5 life.
Wallace asking Johnson, where's your Skullcrack? And the answer is in his hand.
But he did not have the mana for it to respond to the Thragtusk's triggered ability.
And again, that's the reason that I don't love Skullcrack in this matchup from Johnson's deck, because it forces you to actually have the mana available and cast at the right time. Because again, if you don't have it in your hand when Wallace casts a Thragtusk, or if your mana's down, it doesn't really do very much.
It's a very poor burn spell if you're not countering some form of life gain. And Wallace has snuck his life gain in under the shields of Adam Johnson. And now Thragtusk attacks for 5. Wallace is going to follow up with an Overgrown Tomb untapped for another Olivia Voldaren, leaving 2 mana up to be able to ping with his vampire.
Johnson does draw a mountain. Mythium Mortar is going to take down Olivia.
So Johnson boarding in Mythium Mortars. He's drawn 2 of them. They've taken care of Olivia Voldaren each time, but not exactly the game plan that the red-green aggro deck wants to be following.
No. Yeah, see, that's the big thing, is when you draw your sideboard cards are supposed to have a huge impact in the game. And he's drawn 2 of his sideboard cards in Mythium Mortars, and they have been rather low impact in this particular game. He's also drawn at least 1 Skullcrack, potentially 2, and again, those have not had a very big impact on the game either. So, that's one thing that you have to keep in mind when you're sideboarding is you draw when you sideboard. The idea behind sideboarding is you want to draw those cards. That's why you're bringing them in. And so if you're going to bring in cards, they had better be pretty good when you draw them. And we see that Johnson has drawn multiples of his sideboard cards, and they've had little to no effect on the game.
He's become too reactionary in this matchup. All through the top 8 up to this point, Adam Johnson has been the aggressor. He's come out fast. He's hit hard. He's won these matches quickly, but he boarded into more of a control-y deck here for Game 2 of the finals.
And you're not going to out-control Jund from the red deck. The red deck just doesn't have, the tools and the resources to out-control a Jund deck. Jund's cards are so much better than the red deck's cards, from efficiency, just some power level, just everything about Jund versus red their cards are just better than yours. So as a result, you have to be hyper aggressive and kill them
Yeah.
before they're able to cast their better cards against you. And that's not what we see happening.
You cannot trade 1-for-1 with a deck that has Huntmaster the Fells and Thragtusk. That is not what you want to be doing. So his sideboard here maybe didn't have what he needed for this matchup. Like, I would have thought maybe having a few copies of something like Thundermaw Hellkite in your sideboard to be able to go big and finish your opponent off with that big 5 damage in the air. But no, all he has now is Rakdos Cacklers. Is he going to be forced to leave this as a 1/1 as a chump blocker? Is that what it's come down to for Adam Johnson with the red-green aggro deck? Does not reach for the die. And John Wallace gesturing, saying, really? Really?
Yeah, if that thing is blocking, I've been here before. If that's blocking, you are probably not winning.
Even in limited, I feel terrible when I have to leash my unleash cards.
Yeah.
Like, the only one you wanna do that with is the skeleton guy who regenerates.
Ah, yes, the old Grim Roost to boot.
And now all that Rakdos Cackler can do is buy Adam Johnson another turn against Thragtusk.
Now, the thing is, of course, is that, again, the longer you go against John, the better their cards are that they're going to draw. You see Wallace draws a Putrefy for the turn to go along with his Abrupt Decay and his Farseek. So the longer you go, the worse it gets. There's a
Liliana.
That gets discarded to Liliana. And Wallace is probably just going to discard that Farseek. Yep.
Yeah, so now he's left with the 2 removal spells in hand. He's probably going to use one of them here. No.
A little bit surprised by that.
As am I. With 2 removal spells in hand, you would think that he would just go with the Abrupt Decay first and then hold the Putrefy for the follow-up play and dispatch Adam in 2 swings of the Thragtusk here. So he's holding on to those removal spells. I don't know if there's any way that Adam can punish John here. John is at 19 life. That's a lot of life when you only have 2 cards in hand and a draw step coming up. I don't think there are 3 spells in the standard format that can do that here. So John Wallace still in a very strong position, but curious that he did not use his removal spell on the Rakdos Cackler to get 5 more damage through and put Johnson at dead.
Yeah, I would just want to clear the road. Again, when you have multiple removal spells and you have a Liliana that's sitting on 2, even though it just got destroyed by a Skullcrack, I would just want to clear the road and just get this game over with in 2 turns instead of 3, personally. Here's a Hell Rider for Johnson, which we know Wallace does have an answer for.
He does, but he's had the 2 answers. Could have Abrupt Decayed the Cackler and then Putrefied this Hell Rider. It would have been over. He swings in for 5.
Give Johnson an extra turn, which is something you don't oftentimes want to do when you're playing Magic. You'd like to close the game out, as quickly as you can from a mathematical standpoint, but I don't think it's going to come back and hurt Wallace here. As Wallace shows, he's showing Johnson the Abrupt Decay. And
so that's... Wow.
Yep.
John Wallace with the Jund deck picks up the trophy. 2-0.
He is a happy man. John Wallace is your champion. Jund mid-range defeats red-green aggro, and that is going to be our winner's interview. And I got a feeling it's going to be a pretty interesting one.
I want to stick around, watch this interview from the